Okay, welcome to Internet Land. Hello, Internet. We are going to be playing Murkurgur, the Death-Rolled Kingdom, which is a Southeast Asia-inspired fantasy world by two fellows over in Malaysia. So Moon Cow and ZXU. So this is kind of a test run to see, what a little adventure in this world might look like. We've got our players here. I'll introduce myself and we'll go real quick and do that bit, and then we'll dive into it. So my name is Tomer, or Tomes. All of us are from the Gauntlet, so I'll say that straight up right now. And maybe I'll start with you, Lauren, and kind of go across the way there.
Awesome. I'm Lauren, she, her pronouns. Yes, I'm a proud member of the Gauntlet and very excited to be playing this game. I can't wait. It's going to be fun.
Ellen?
Yes, I am Ellen. I am also a proud member of the Gauntlet. And really, really stoked to be playing with these gorgeous people here.
I'm Ari, also a proud member of the Gauntlet, and happy to be reunited with my Asia-Pacific buddies here.
Awesome. So we will start by talking about Murkurgur. So we adventurers, you three, we're heading to this kingdom. And this is one of the thousand islands, the many kingdoms in this land. So 5 days by boat upriver, you come to a wide lake watched by limestone cliffs. Shapes lurk in the water, and shapes wait up ahead. This is a kingdom known for its worship of the crocodile. And not worship as in thinking these are like gods or just idols or things like that. No, crocodiles are a very central part of society here. They are the leaders. They are the ones who hold the wisdom. They're the ones who hold the power. So society really revolves around these huge, sometimes very huge crocodile beasts, who otherwise live quite harmoniously with most of their human subjects. So this is the land that we are traveling up to. So I'm flipping some of these slides over. So we approach the gates. We are traveling here together. Maybe we know each other, maybe we don't. I don't know. But these gates look like huge crocodile mouths, and you're not sure if they were designed that way or if, maybe over time that's just kind of the image that they exude. But one is made of, like a white stone, and the other one of black. And you definitely notice that they are not of any kind of architecture that you're aware of. I mean, you don't know how something like that would be able to hold itself, given how heavy that probably is. Could be sorcery, who knows? But yeah, we have these little scene prompts here. And so we're going to take turns and do little vignettes on your character and maybe, why they're here or something about them. I don't have an order here, so if you guys want to grab them at your leisure, feel free. And for those listening at home, this is a little bit like if you've played Fall of Magic or games of that type, Autumn of the Ancients. We're kind of borrowing a little bit of that DNA here. So if anybody's ready, feel free.
Ooh, I'm ready.
Do the thing.
Pilgrim is his name. And he is a stubborn devotee to the ways of the crocodilier. He is crusading across the lands to fight for what is best and right and true, for their great Lord. And as Pilgrim approaches these gates, he is reminded of a story, a fable that he learnt in the seminary, of the poor, feeble human who dared enter these waters known to inhabit these great crocodiles from ancient times, where huge beasts roamed the land. And this almighty crocodile of all crocodiles came up to this meager human, and the human was quaking in its boots, terrified. And as the croc slid up to the human, the croc laughed and said, "Human, I will not consume you if you follow the wake of my swim." And this human bended a knee and praise be to the great croc of before time, and rode off down the river on the back of this giant crocodile.
Nice. And I think you've heard of, some say it's blasphemous, but there are old texts. There's obviously the learning of following the crocodile as you do, but there was one who spoke of a great city that used to be here in this land where the crocodiles now rule, and they say that this city is beneath the waters, and that was a race, a proud race of people, of things, of precursors that enslaved their gods. They were so powerful, and made their gods dance for them. They were so powerful. And it was even rumored that maybe the crocs were their pets at some point in time. But, nowadays, like, those are blasphemous words, but there are a lot of wonders to behold under the water here, good and cursed. But yeah, rumors. All right. Who else?
I'm going to run with that, since you threw that out there, that these crocs used to be pets of this ancient race. So my village elder, I'm the preeminent hunter in our village, and I've been sent out by my village elders to find out whether there is truth to this legend or not. I have to tell you guys who I am. Hold on a second. Where's my? Yeah, so I'm Mirik. I'm a ranger, and I have a pet macaque named Babaru. And me and Babaru are headed out this way. I believe I've run into the other two at this sort of the gates. And the promise that I made is to find out the truth of the gators, whether they were part of this ancient race, and if the ancient race is a real thing or not, to make contact. Perhaps they would be a good ally to have.
Love it. And that is Mirik the Ranger. Okay. Yeah.
I think that blends in so nicely with Panya. So yeah, visually, Panya is like a robe-wearing wizard that has a lot of folds in it and stuff, and she procures like various trinkets and items that she's picked up along her travels. It's kind of hard to tell how old she is, but she looks and acts rather youthful. And yeah, I definitely like she is all about gathering stories and legends to tell to people upon her travels. So it makes a lot of sense that she has tagged along with Merrick in particular to go and track down like these gator gods to see if they can make contact. For that will tell a mighty story once she is finally retired. And perhaps she can procure some fine treasures and other trinkets that she can sell or keep in part of her collection. And like we probably even see Panya milling around the mouths of these like crocodile gates with a little rat on her. Not a little rat, it's like a sizable rat on her shoulder that looks quite scruffy and scraggly. Like big tufts of like a big sort of like gross rat with beady eyes that swirl purple and black and indigo, and have like something going on behind them. And she sort of crouches down to like one of these teeth that like rock teeth that protrude from the gate and sort of like touches it, and then like shakes her hands when it hurts. And she looks to her little like rat and says like, does this not remind you of the time we ventured into the tombs, the crypt of Blind Dio, and stole his tooth? And then she doesn't, no one really says anything in response, but then she nods and she says, yes, indeed. We were lucky to get out of there alive. And then she stands and turns and looks to her comrades, kind of thing. So that's Panya.
Nice. And I'll say that there's probably one additional thing you've heard, and Panya specifically has heard of this land, and that's that. Again, it was known for having all these. It's almost like a name that's lost in history, like Atlantis, right? Like the name that used to be this city or this world back here is a name just associated with myth and legend. And it's so far back, like, nobody comes from this land. All these people must be gone. They are known as gods themselves at this point, right? But it is said that their kingdom fell because they were being punished, right? Because they were too proud and they built too high, right? There's a little bit of that, like the Tower of Babel type of fantasy about it, right? But yeah, there's you guys are riding on a long wooden boat that's definitely carved in the shape of a large crocodile, in ways. And there's the guy who's paddling in the back, and his name is Moo, and or at least that's the name he's given you. And he smiles at you at this point after Panya gets back into the boat. After visiting these teeth, we took a little, a stop here before entering the gates. And he looks to you and he smiles and he says, "Be welcome. Watch for shapes lurking in the water." And at that point, you probably inadvertently look at the water, and maybe you saw a shape, maybe not. I don't know. But and he still has that half smile, quirky smile on his face. Cool. Let's go to our next location. So not too long after, we end up in Merkur, Singapore. And even though there's these strange syllables in the front, you notice that even your boatsman Moo, as he pulls up to the port, and the boat sits next to one of these landings. He just calls it. He first calls it Merkur Singa, and that first part sounds like it would be very hard, like I'm not doing it justice, but it would be very hard for you to replicate, right? These weird syllables. But he kind of warns you. He says, oh, just call this Singa. The scaled ones don't like it when you mispronounce their words. And but after that, he pulls up the boat. You guys have already paid him a couple of coins prior to leaving, and he just walks off. He leaves you there in the boat. I mean, you're free to kind of go as you wish. Let me see here if we're going to queue up a track. And for those listening at home, we will have some audio in the background that you cannot hear unless maybe one day we make an edit of this thing. Who knows? Let me see here. Give me a moment. Oh yeah, let's go for that. So go ahead and play 15, Raja's Palace. And put it at whatever audio level is comfortable for you. So we're at the port. There are a couple of story prompts here as well. Yeah, let's see some more vignettes of these, of your people here. And feel free to choose whichever. You do notice that the people are dressed, it's very tropical here, more so since you passed those gates. As soon as you passed them, there was almost a wall of humidity that hit you. And I mean, you guys are used to humidity in some fashion in many of these lands, but it's pretty solid here. Like the air feels like you're almost drinking it, right? People are wearing, pretty light dress, and that might not be unusual from where you come from. But they're definitely like more than half naked, right? Almost nobody wears anything that covers them. But occasionally you'll see one or two, right? Somebody who looks a little more ceremonial maybe, or wearing strange, feathered garb that you haven't seen, something a little bit more elaborate. There's, some shouting, and people are, it's definitely a trade area, right? There's a market here. And you see people mixed with a couple of large crocodiles. The first time you see one, it might even be maybe nerve-wracking to you, maybe not, I don't know. But some of them are wandering around mixed with the people. Fortunately, after looking at the situation for a moment, you do notice that no one's being eaten or anything, so that's good. So yeah, if anybody wants to grab a prompt, feel free.
Babaru is clinging close to me at the sight of these large reptiles. We've seen them before basking in the sun, but they were much smaller. These are huge and very strange to see them walking amongst people. That's not a common sight. But I turn to Pilgrim and Panya, and I tell them that I've heard that there is a floating market here. And in the floating market, there's supposedly a shrine where there are mangoes with secret powers. And those who are skilled and able to peel them properly could release the power of these mangoes. I'm going to go there if either of you want to join me. And I take a couple steps, look over my shoulder and see if they want to come along or not. But either way, I'm going to go to the floating market where these mangoes are supposed to be.
Blaspheme. I find it laughable that you think that a mere fruit can hold any power.
Well, perhaps you're right, but I point up to the trees and say, I met Babaru in the trees such as one of these. At one time, this tree was nothing more but a seedling, but yet it grew into this palatial home where the monkey tribes live. So perhaps there is something to the smallest things as well as the largest things.
Well, I hope you do have fun on your adventure. I will come with you, but I am not looking at the fruit stalls.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I think Panya claps a hand on your shoulder, Merrick, and laughs and says, like, that is so adorable and so quaint. Of course I will come with you and imbibe in the spirit mango. Perhaps I can even show you a thing or two about how to eat them.
Excellent. So I head down, and maybe it takes you
don't even need to head down. There's a little
there.
boy who is pulling your shirt, right? And he keeps pulling your shirt until you look over, and he says, "I heard you. Are you looking for spirit mango?"
Yes, I am.
And he doesn't even wait. He just turns and starts jogging down the street, this little kid. And he'll stop every once in a while and kind of like wave you over. Come.
I sent Babru after him so that I can keep the sort of him between us, follow him along. So this monkey's scrabbling along through the crowd, dancing along the eaves, and
Nice. And I think right before we get to that market, we see Babru up on one corner of a little shack. And by the way, you've noticed this entire journey that all the buildings here are made out of palm leaves and other kind of tree parts, right? But there's no stone buildings at all. There are, every once in a while, you see large stones that were definitely worked by somebody, right? That, by some architect, maybe even one or two little buildings that have kind of like fallen in or whatever, but nobody's living in them, right? But all the buildings are made of this kind of natural material, right?
Yeah.
And finally, like in this last little hut on the corner, Babru's sitting up there, and he's like making some sounds at you and pointing down, and you turn this corner, and there's the market, right? And you thought there was a good market, in the front of the port, but like here, it's where the business is, right? And half of the market's on the water itself, right? Like floating on, boats and platforms that are kind of interconnected. And the boy's sitting there, and you can see him talking to a friend who I guess is a merchant there, right? And the merchant has a couple of baskets in front of them, right? And you approach, and the merchant looks to you and says, I see. You are a purveyor of spirit mango. Is what I hear correct?
I'm looking to see if the powers of this mango are true. I have a skeptic friend amongst me, so if these truly exist, this would be the moment to reveal it.
Well, my name is Bibi, and these mangoes here are what you are looking for. And he points down, and you see a couple of interwoven baskets that are there on top of a platform, which is his little stall, and they're all empty.
Well, you seem to be out of mangoes. I look around. Well, unless you're hiding.
Oh, young one, I am flush with mangoes. These are spirit mangoes, my friend. The question is whether or not you can actually, I don't know, do you have the ability to detect them? And he reaches down, and you see him, carefully, pick up this, there's nothing in his hand, but it actually looks like he's holding a thing, right? I mean, it doesn't look like he's just faking it, but who knows? And he reaches out, and he says, "Here, put your hand under mine." And he puts his other one below yours, right? And he kind of tries to dip this thing into your hand, and you see him like catch it. Like, I guess the mango went through your hand to his other hand. He says, no, you have to believe. You have to believe in it. And he tries to do this again.
I believe in the mango. It is a real mango.
Hey, let's do a roll thing.
Okay. Can I get here's a question. So Babaru is nearby. Babaru has a very good sense of smell, and I can communicate
Yes,
with Babaru. Could I get Babaru to help me to smell if the mango is there?
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So, you call to Babaru, and Babaru comes and, gets up on your shoulder, right?
Yes.
And, after one or two of these attempts, the BB, the merchant, is like, "Oh yes, you have it, and you feel like you don't feel anything, but maybe you have this mango in your hand now. I don't know. Um, but you put it over to Babaru, and
Yes.
he kind of looks at it, does a little sniffing, but doesn't look interested, and kind of like you can see him actually turn his head to another vendor of actual fruits, right?
Right.
And definitely like he's not attracted by whatever is in your
Right.
hand.
Babaru cannot confirm the authenticity of this fruit, but there is some faith left in me. I believe it's possible that Babaru simply cannot smell the spirit mango, but only a
Well,
real mango.
lucky for you, I am flush with these mangoes, so it's only 10 silver for a single mango. You laugh, but these are very hard to pick. These mangoes are you do you know anything of the spirit mango?
I was misled into believing that it's just like any other mango and you simply peel it, but it seems
And
my
you see like
information is
he gets a little
incorrect.
bit red, like really looks a little flushed and angry, and he says, "The only dead trees that flower in the invisible world produce spirit mango. The it, who knows what pollinates these things, but I wouldn't want to be there when they do. These things are rare and expensive,
Yeah, well,
and fortunately I have the second sight, so I can find them in the forest, but most would just walk on top of them. But again, for you, my friend, I know you are not from here. I would gladly part with one for 10 silver."
You say that it is difficult to collect these mangoes, but it is also difficult to collect 10 silver. So I have an offer to make to you. Perhaps for 10 silver, you will tell us the site of where these mangoes grow, and we can pick our own. And I promise to take only one, if such a place exists.
He thinks about that for a while. Um, and I think you probably are able to convince him of this. So yeah, you pay him the 10 silver.
Sure.
Okay. He gives you a location, and kind of gives you some like a couple of landmarks to look for, not far from this port at all, but it's on the way to a different town, which you guys will be heading to as well. But yeah, he gives you a couple landmarks.
I'll write that down.
All right, we end that scene. What about y'all? And as far as, by the way, with musical cues, like I haven't told you to put any of these on repeat. You can if you want, but so like I'm going to replay this particular track. But you can actually put the player to repeat it if you want. There are some tracks that'll probably repeat better than others, but most of these are fairly long, so you won't even need to do that. So it's your choice. But I'm going to replay 15 Raja's Palace.
So before we ventured off in this direction, just as we were about to leave the boat that we were on, Pilgrim stands up proud. He is wearing a murky green colored traveling robe, and he casts it off, and he's there wearing similar sort of like sarong type underpants outfit, no shirt, but you can see on his back he is wearing a carved back plate, and the texture and the style of the back plate is similar to a crocodile's back. And he in a large scabbard that he has across, like it's hanging from his hip, and the tip of the scabbard is almost dragging along the ground. The sword is so huge. The shape of the scabbard is triangular, so you haven't seen inside, like you haven't seen the weapon that it's held, but it is of purportedly an ancient crocodile tooth. So he is following Merrick to this fabulous market, and he is buzzing with excitement for finally being amongst the holy ones and being in a place that he's learned so much about. And he is on a quest. He is traveling across these worlds to collect items, to pull together something of worth for the Great Lord. And he's, after Merrick negotiates the price for the location, Pilgrim chuckles to himself and walks off and is slowly looking at the markets and the vendors, and he sees an old woman sitting there with similarly carved arm plates, and he approaches the woman and like, blessed day to you. I see that you follow the way of the crocodilier.
And she turns to you. She has her hair is definitely in a weird style for you. You haven't noticed this even amongst the people here. It's not a style that you've noticed, but it's kind of grows long, is combed out, so it has a lot of volume, and it goes to the side, almost like kind of like a shell shape, right? She's holding a large staff, which the blade on the end of it is, maybe it's a crocodile shape. It is definitely made of some maybe bronze or a little bit of iron, but it's kind of got like a little bit of, you can only tell it's crocodile because it has like pieces of like shapes like scales and some eyes at the end. And she turns to you and she says, "Yes, can I help you?" And that's when she notices your plate, and she goes, "Oh, I see. Who are you?"
Kind lady, I'm just a wanderer searching these wide rivers. And
you probably don't even get most of that out, because as soon as you say kind lady, she just laughs hysterically, right? I mean, and it echoes around, right? And she said, "I have never been told I am kind," and you can tell she's very confident, right? She's very muscular. She looks like a hunter, and she kind of gives you like a little bit of a more appraising eye, and maybe she looks at your garments to see if you're really a wanderer, right, or not. And she goes, I am Dien. I am Dien, a princess of the Tui. What people are you from? You're not from here, and yet you carry this with you.
I am pleased to meet you, Deanne. I am not from here, as you've correctly surmised. I have not had the great blessing to grow and live in such a magnificent place, but I am from the city of Peck, far away, and it was there that I've learned of the right way to swim in life. And
as you're talking, she's actually is going to your back and examining your plate. What is it made out of?
I'm going to say teak.
Ah, nice. Yeah, you can tell she's very interested in that, but she's listening. She says, oh, and she kind of interrupts you again. And, oh, Peck, do they have demon tigers there?
Yes, but the rich own them as pets, and I have not encountered one directly.
And she continues to listen, but she shows you her plate, right? Her arm plate that she has that you noticed, and she says yours is not of the same material exactly, and she shows that hers is made. It looks kind of similar, like a strong wood, but it's actually the more you talk to her about it, she mentions that it's actually called Tui leather, and from her people, they make this of palm groves, right? Through a special process. And she says, well, but I myself am on a quest. I must hunt one of these demon tigers and bring it back to my village, and only then will they reign me as princess. But you, what is your quest? What do you need? And how can we help each other?
I am looking for pieces to form a gift, one that will please the great crocodile Paniza. And I've been honored with the duty of using this great sword. The fabled tooth of Paniza, to slay those that might stand in my way. And at that time, he withdraws this enormous tooth from the scabbard.
And she almost as quickly, once she notices what it is, she slams it back down into the scabbard, and she looks around, scared, right? And you didn't expect to see her look scared. She looks like a fierce warrior, but she whispers and says, do not show that here. I don't know where you got it, but they will suspect you of a crocodile killer.
Oh no.
But don't worry, I will not say a word. And she kind of looks around, and she says, I know what you need. You need to go get a snake stone. They use these snake stones to make things of magic quality. It improves it. These are the things left behind from people before us. Maybe if you find a snake stone quarry, there's one up the river, I'm sure. And then maybe once you get that, then you'll need the blessings of a crocodile. There's many up in the town. You may have to do a favor to get such a blessing, but they can change things and she kind of like looks around a little bit, and she stops for a second as this smaller crocodile kind of wanders past. And the smaller crocodile has like a couple of people walking behind him, laborers, and carrying stuff, I guess, for the crocodile. And they wander past, and then once they're past, she kind of again leans back in and she says, the crocodiles can do you a favor. You got to seek a big one. A small one like that, they don't have that power yet. But the big ones can turn things that look into crocodiles. And if you bring them a snake stone, they may be able to do what you wish.
You are so wise and clearly very competent in navigating this world. Would you join us? I will take you back to our lands and
she
then...
lets out a laugh just like the first one. And she says, ha, join you. I'm afraid I have more important things to attend to. But good luck. Peace be with you. And don't show that. Not here. Not in the port. Not in the town. And she turns and walks away.
Damn it. I've got a lot to learn. Thank you, Toma. That was really fun.
Awesome. I'm going to replay my Raja's Palace one more time for this last scene, I think.
Yep, mine just ended also.
I think perhaps, like, I'm not sure when this happens, but I think Panya grabs like Merrick's elbow while they're wandering around the markets here, and leans in like conspiratorially and says, Merrick, I have a tip that you might be interested in.
Have you seen Babru? I think he's off stealing fruit. What's the tip? Quickly tell me.
Oh, wait, maybe he's there. I don't know. But I have heard words that this place has teak nymphs living in the forests not too far yonder that way, if you would like to come with me. Seems very pertinent to your interests.
Teak nymphs. Yes. Okay. Let's go take a look. Why not? What could possibly go wrong?
Indeed. In fact, I'm not quite sure what they will be able to procure for us. Perhaps we can trade. Perhaps they can bless us with luck upon our quest.
Oh, with the way things are going, they'll probably just be invisible.
Perhaps you just need to believe. Have trust and faith.
Okay, I believe it. Let's go.
Excellent.
I follow.
So you wander for teak nymphs. Now, you guys have reached the town here in the middle of the day, and it's I wouldn't even say it's overcast. It almost is. Like there's that haze in the sky, so you can see where the sun is, but you're not seeing a glaring sun by any means. And occasionally it'll like drizzle very lightly, or you'll feel the mist, on your skin. But you wander for a while, and maybe even ask directions once or twice. People usually scoff, but Panya, you're pretty sure that they just don't want to share the secrets of where the teak nymphs are, and somebody who's persistent should be able to find them. And it isn't that long. Well, you say it's not that long. I'll say that Mirik, it's a long time, a couple of hours. But finally, you do turn a corner and you see a regal shaman, right? And you can tell, and it's a male, and he's wearing, kind of like a large volume hat, although it looks very light, right? So it's probably hollow a bit, and feathers everywhere, lots of gorgeous, different colored feathers. In fact, he's holding a large staff, and from that staff, there are all these feathers that come out in a wide array. And he's not wearing too many clothes, but he is wearing a lot of different pieces, right? So although it's still very airy, there's streamers of different colored cloths that he's wearing. And you see him looking, it looks like he's praying to the tree, maybe, right? And that's when, you're pretty sure maybe this is like you're on the right track. That's what you see around the corner.
I think Panya like tilts her ear to the wind, and she like sort of puts her hand on Merrick again, and she's like, can you not hear that? The clattering of the trees and the breeze. We're on the right trail. I can feel it in the wind.
Merrick's eyes were shut when you turned to him, and you see his lips moving and uttering a prayer to the local spirits, and he opens his eyes again. He says, yes, perhaps so.
And I think even though you guys aren't conversing very loudly, correct? This shaman still hears you, and it looks like he's been interrupted, and he's like maybe almost embarrassed, right? And you see him covering up something that he's got in his clothes, or and he kind of like adjusts himself and turns around, and he said, "Who goes there? This is a private area, and I'm doing a private ceremony."
Oh, I do apologize. We are merely travelers who are seeking to delight ourselves with the scenery and the culture of this place. I apologize if we intruded upon your quiet time.
And he looks around and he says, well, this is not scenery to be enjoyed by anybody. This is my private grove. The scenery is over there, yonder in the port. Go that way.
Yes, I do apologize. However, before we depart, we heard that this locale contained teak nymphs, and we are very interested in perhaps like seeking counsel with them.
And let me ask you guys a question, the both of you. Well, actually, I'm just going to ask you, Panya, because you are the one who's looking for these teak nymphs. How do you know that this tree behind him is how do you know you're in the right place? Like, what is the sign that shows you that?
Yeah, I think like if you peer closely at this tree, you can kind of like, how you get moths that blend into like bark and stuff, and it's really hard to like notice them unless you're like specifically looking for those moths.
Yes.
It's a similar thing here where like the tree nymphs are like impressed, like hugging the tree behind him, and you wouldn't be able to notice it unless like you be able to catch like the light reflecting off of their like dragonfly-esque wings and that kind of thing.
Nice. And so I think, he tries to convince you that this is not, teak nymphs. No, well, no, and like he's kind of at first trying to convince you that this is not the place. But, after a few moments, you can see him kind of soften a bit. And he says, well, look, are you here to perhaps take one of them somewhere? Maybe to a new forest? And he doesn't look like that angers him. Like he's definitely asking, like he's very curious if you're here to transport a teak nymph somewhere, I guess.
I think Panya nods quite vigorously and says, yes, we are traveling up the river. If any teak nymphs are seeking to perhaps like go upon their own journey, then I would be more than happy to take one or several or as many as a charge to pollinate this place with nymphs.
And, you see him kind of chuckle a little bit, and he says, you can't take many teak nymphs at the same time. One at the most is what I have. I've been working with the teak nymphs for many years. I'm probably the leadmost shaman who has spread the teak nymphs far and wide in this area. So, come. And he brings you over to the tree, and he shows you closer. And in fact, it looks like there's those shapes that could be like nymph-like, moth-like shapes. They're not actual nymphs, right? They're not actual creatures. Like it looks like they've been etched into the tree, right? But they do, when you look closely, like at first from a distance, it just, close, they do look like you see the outline opening in the tree, which is, pretty low down. And he reaches in, and you can see it's kind of also like when tree irritated, they have the sap coming out of him, right? So it almost looks kind of like that. There's like this kind of like sap that's there, and he reaches in kind of deeply and pulls out. Oh, are you guys able to hear me okay right now?
Yes, you're roboting a little bit, babe.
Oh no. Okay. All I'll do my best. So to the tree and brings out what looks like a teardrop made out of sap. Fairly large too. Says, here, all you have to do is swallow it, and the teeth nymph will come.
And Panya takes the sap teardrop and looks at it. And
Or
says,
you will become the tear nymph, or you'll become the teak nymph.
and Panya says, do pardon my question, it may be inappropriate, but from where shall the teak nymph come?
Oh, well, it may take some time. After you eat it, you might need to wait about 3 months or so, but you will feel the teak nymph growing inside you, and then you'll give birth to it. And wherever you are, that is where it will now reside, and it will take care of that forest.
And I think Panya turns to Merrick and hands Merrick the teardrop and says, Merrick, I'm sure you've always wanted to be a parent. Would you like to embark upon this most great quest?
Merrick holds it up and looks at it and kind of thinks to himself, I'm not sure this is going to work on me. I look at the shaman, is this work for? And I kind of like, I don't even say it. I just, do this.
Right.
With my...
Let me ask you a question. Is Babru a male or female macaque?
Let's make Babru female.
All right. So I think that the shaman is looking at you and, gets this kind of look in his face, like that's not going to work. And I think Babru just like grabs it and eats it.
Whoa.
Right.
Okay. I was so surprised.
The shaman kind of like opens his eyes wide and takes a step back and says, well, and asks, if Babru is male or female and that kind of thing. But then says, I have not had a monkey try it, but I don't see what could go wrong, I guess.
I was going to ask you earlier, the bond between mother and child is very strong. Who's to say that Babru's heart will not be broken, or that Babru will not allow the nymph to leave her side?
That does not happen. You can trust me. I have brought to life many, many teak nymphs. You could say I am a father to thousands.
And you could say that I'm a child to Babru. Babru is much wiser than you think she is.
Congratulations, you'll be a grandparent.
Yes.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's...
Well, there's no turning back now. So, yeah. Well, let's go. Babru, good luck.
So I think your quest is somewhat successful. You do have a teak nymph among you, supposedly. All right. So what I'm going to do is, now let's see here. We're going to jump forward a little bit. So I know, Ari, you've got a little bit of a time limit that's coming up in the not too distant future.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But what we're going to do is we're going to play a little bit of back and forth forward in time. So we're going to jump quite a bit later in this scene after you guys have gone upriver. But if you two, Lauren and Ellen, want to continue after Ari has to leave, which is, I think, in like half an hour, right? Then we can kind of fill in the backspace. And I already thought of doing this earlier because Ari and I were talking a little bit about his time limitations. Before I continue, though, does anybody need a break, or is everybody cool to go like another 30 minutes? And maybe after Ari has to drop off, we can take a short break. Okay. And two, what's my question? No, I guess that's it. I'll remember the other one in a second. I'm going to skip through a bunch of stuff, and we are going to go there. So we are now upriver. This is probably about a week later, right? So, you guys have taken a ship, a small boat, a canoe, and with a guide, because the rivers here are hard to navigate, and you want to make sure someone is authorized by the crocodiles when you head into their kingdom. And you've ended up here in Merkursajaya town. I'm going to, let's play a tune. Let me grab one here. Hold on. I don't think I got all the ones that I wanted here. That's okay. Yeah, let's play one called, it's O1 Fantasy Tavern. I'm going to do that. So there's a hum here of people. You've noticed on the different days. Oh, I remembered what I was going to ask. Am I still roboting? Okay, good. All right. So you've noticed on different days, sometimes the weather is similar to, that misty kind of overcastness, the drizzle. And on those days, the crocodiles and humans seem to all wander together. And then there are days that are hot and the sun is shining down and it's steamy. You can see the steam coming off the ground, right, as it's the wet earth is evaporating. And on those days, the crocodiles tend to laze in the sun or go indoors. And mostly it's the humans who are walking around, the laborers. And that's the sort of day it is today. So you're not seeing very many crocodiles, but you've just landed in Merkursajaya town. And this place has, many buildings, again, made out of palm and other material. And a lot of it floats. So, a lot of it is on, stilts above the water. And parts of it go onto the land as well. But you can see how it's kind of intruded into this huge bend of the river, which is very calm. It's almost like a little lake, but you can kind of see across it. It's not that big. So that's where we find ourselves today. So we'll do some quick little vignettes here on this town.
I'll go first. Mirik has noticed since the arrival in Merkursajaya town that Babaru is not feeling well. Babaru is feeling a bit of nausea and not herself. And at one point, she begins to vomit, and it's terrible. He helps clean up after her, and he decides that the best thing to do is to get some fresh air for her and take her downriver a bit. So the two of them kind of wander off, and she's sitting on his shoulder, and he's pacing along the side of this big river and watching the crocodiles swimming. And he ends up going beyond the town limits, and several miles down, he's lost himself, and Babaru has fallen asleep on his shoulder. And as he's walking through the reeds, his feet kind of bump against something. And as he looks down at it, he sees that there's some sort of a worked stone there. There's something strange about it. And he reaches down and he pulls at the stone to kind of get a better look at it. And when he does, something comes loose and the water washes away the debris. And underneath, he can see these cages of gilded gold. The only thing, they must be gold because anything else would have been rusted away here. And inside of them, he can see these objects that he can't quite make out. And he pulls them up and kind of opens the cage, takes them out, and he sees something that he's never seen before. These are small figurines that are carved and the depiction of clothing and garments of a group of people, a culture that is only been seen in legend.
Yes.
These are very, very clear. This is very clear evidence that there's something going on here.
And is this object, is this something that you pull out of the cage?
Yeah, pulls it out of the cage.
Nice. So you pull it out of the cage, and I'm going to say you are pulled into almost like a dreamlike trance for a short moment, and you have a bit of a very disturbing image, and it is of your death. And what does that look like?
Ironically, he sees himself being consumed by a crocodile.
Yeah.
Swallowed whole. He's not being, it's nothing gruesome like being, torn limb from limb or anything horrible like that. It's just one boom and he's gone.
Right. And I think it's at that moment where behind you, you hear, a very deep kind of voice, which is, you guys haven't heard too many crocodiles speak, but they can speak in this human tongue, and it's gravelly. And, this crocodile says, hey, what are you? Be careful there. Those areas are restricted. That is Aryam Sir's location, and you don't want to disturb the things down there. That's bad news. Does this crocodile see what you're holding in your hand, or have you hidden it?
No, I'm not going to be furtive. I'm going to be very open about it. This crocodile will see it.
Right. And I think, this is where the crocodile notices it and says, oh, that is not good. Put that back where you found it. And you better talk to Urium Sir. He may be able to help you, but you may have let loose something very, very bad indeed.
I mean, no respect, my careful and observant friend, but I'm on an errand. I must bring proof back of this great civilization that lies beneath the waters. And this is a clear representation. I will honor your customs if it is permissible. I would like to make a copy of this, and then I will return it to its place.
It's not our customs you have to worry about. And he just kind of like slithers down the path, and you can hear him grumping and groaning quite a bit.
I like this crocodile.
But yeah, so as far as the end of that scene, what do you end up doing with this object? Do you make a copy of it? Do you bring it with you?
I'm going to go back to the town, and I'm going to find an artisan to make a copy for me. And then I'm going to return it to its original place. Okay.
All right. Let's see what the next scene looks like.
I really want to smoke some spirit mango shisha with Pilgrim.
Nice. Love it. All right. So all that's found in the floating hostelry, which is tethered on the north side of the town. So this is where everyone gathers. And in fact, there's a very jovial kind of mood to the place, right? It's one of the larger buildings. It's a huge circle. And when you go inside, it's almost like one large tavern. It's got like a kind of bar type area in the middle where there's sometimes somebody who's serving drinks, or sometimes, a couple of individuals come in, and that's where, they'll set up like a little cooking area and they'll start barbecuing. And, you can see there's a hole above the center where all that smoke kind of comes out, right? But this is definitely like the meeting place of the town. And, people are coming in and out. Some of them are obviously locals, but there's quite a number of foreigners here, like some, people like yourselves who do not look like they're from this town, or from this country, right? This land. So yeah, there's quite a little hubbub. yeah, let's see what this looks like.
So yeah, I think Panya again gets like a hot tip that you can actually smoke. So like smoke some spirit mango at this place. I think she'll grab like both of her companions and like drag them into this hubbub, and we'll find a. Well, I think she'll like start asking around like the crowd here, like, oh, which of these particular vendors offers spirit mango?
And there's one person that she talks to, and I can kind of see this as also being about the time that maybe Mirik has come back. He's just given this little idol to an artisan to copy, and so the artisan's kind of doing that work, and like you see him on the street and kind of like grab him and head in this direction, right? And basically inside this place there's a whole corner, and that corner is kind of like the smoking corner. And just like there's a big hole in the center for all the smoke to go up where they usually cook and barbecue and, and do some of the food preparation, there's kind of like a smaller area to the side and opposite the entrance, which also has like these kind of more reclining, relaxing kind of area. It's a little bit cordoned off. They have this one. I mean, I guess hookah is the closest thing that we would consider, but it's like this one large earthenware kind of object. And, there's basically like these tubes that are reeds made out of some plant that's local here. And what happens is, they steam some of these tobacco style leaves in the center, and people sit on the edge and they take these reeds and kind of like stick them in when they're feel ready for another puff or hit of this stuff, and then they suck through the reed itself. And there's also little holes on it, so it almost looks like you're playing a flute, but that's to adjust how much intake you have. They always recommend it first only to do like leave a bunch of the holes open, and it almost looks like you're wasting a lot of that smoke, but they say no, like if somebody ever says that, they say there is no waste. It goes up into the air and the crocodile spirits smoke it. And so yeah, you're part of this circle right now, smoking this stuff, and it definitely this is spirit mango, that's what they claim. And or at first it's not, let's say, but then this vendor comes in and walks over to you and says, I heard you've been asking for the special spirit mango, Shisas. Is that correct?
Did I would be most delighted if we could happen across them.
And he pulls out like this little purse, right? And flips over the cover. And you can see inside, and it's not like ethereal, right? Like it looks like normal, like dried smoking leaves, right? And he says, well, I have some here. It's not easy to come by, but I mean, if we will smoke as friends, I am happy to share.
Oh, indeed. I enjoy making friends. I already consider you a dear friend.
And you can see he smiles immediately, and he puts some inside, and the other people, there's like 2 or 3 other people sitting in that circle with you guys. They see him and they see what's transpiring, the conversation between you, and you see them get up and leave, right? And maybe that's a sign of politeness or something. He didn't invite them to smoke. You don't know, but he puts it inside. And he sits and he looks very excited all of a sudden, and he's smiling over at you and the compatriots. And he says, just a moment. He waits for whatever to be ready. And then he says, I think it's ready now. And you see him, dive in. And he doesn't, even though they've been cautioning you, leave lots of the holes open and allow a lot of the smoke out. And even with that, you could feel the effects of the smoking, right? Like he has all the holes closed and he takes a very big hit and he sits back and then he, breathes it out, and you don't see anything kind of exhale from him. And he says, yes, this is good. It's been a while, but please partake.
Yeah, I think Panya will totally take a reed and will smoke some of this spirit mango. I think she'll start with a couple of holes open, just to be somewhat prudent, although she's actually Panya's not very prudent. Yeah, I think she just like does the same. She just like sucks it up through all the holes, through closing all the holes.
He definitely gives her a bit of an appraising look, like oh, like his eyebrows go up, and you know. What about the two of you? Are you partaking as well?
Come, Pilgrim.
I do,
Really?
but I take a deep breath of it, and for a moment I look to Babaru, but I think otherwise. No, none for you, Babaru. And I blow smoke out, and I keep her at a distance from this thing. She's not meant to have it now.
Right.
Maybe in 3 months.
and she definitely, like, at a certain point, she kind of runs over, and I think one of the proprietors at this point, a couple of the people, and they've already given you some foods and stuff. One has taken a shine to Babru and has already put out little fruit that she's enjoying, and that actually looks like the most she's eaten in a while, even though she's been nauseous for a while. She's it looks like she's kind of getting over it, maybe.
Yes.
And what about Pilgrim?
No, partaking of pleasures of the flesh does not interest me. I do not see how this will further my pilgrimage. So I think I'll just sit around and watch them very closely and probably look quite judgmentally at them.
But Pilgrim, I do hear that you receive visions of crocodiles. Should you partake in some?
And in fact, your new friend here is like, oh, many a pilgrimage has started right here.
Like, which pilgrims are they? Are they pilgrims of any acclaim, or are they the ones that get lost by the riverbanks, never to be seen again?
No. Have you heard of Oweja? You have heard of Oweja. And he sits back like, I mean, duh, right? And he says, oh, he is the high priest. He is the high priest of this place. You must have seen him. He goes around town. He's a short gentleman, but with a very tall hat. You will see him with his river beads. And he is a fanatic believer in the scaled ones. And it is said that this is where he found his heart.
I have heard that there are ways to stimulate visions, and I have learnt of the greater Oweja, so maybe I shall test
Oweja
the
partook.
waters.
Some say he was born right here, and he points at the clay pot that you guys are sitting around. He says he is one of the most fanatic of believers. In fact, he does not believe, and he gets his voice goes down because he looks over at a table, and at first you're not sure why he's looking at a specific table. And he says, yes, he does not believe in the marriage between crocodiles and humans. And that's when you realize the table he was kind of pointing at, there's a crocodile sitting next to it, and there's, a human, there's a male human kind of draped on this crocodile. And the two of them look like very, they're almost like laughing and talking together, right? One's feeding the other, right? The human is putting stuff in the crocodile's mouth. And, your new friend here sits back and he says, I do not judge. Love is love. But Oweja, he says it's impure, not because of the crocodiles, but because of the humans. He says the crocodiles are too pure to taint their blood with us.
My thoughts exactly. I should like to meet this Oweja.
So he like hands you over one of these reeds, like wondering if he's made his case enough for you to smoke this stuff.
I will partake.
Yes, that's the spirit, Pilgrim. And like you get a pat in the back from Pan.
That's awesome. Okay, so we're going to do this next scene, which is a visit to our Umsur. This is the archaeologist. And coming away from this visit, you will not be sure if this was a visit that you did in person, because, you know, it's all mixed in with this situation right now, right? And so maybe you went to see him while you were like high off of this spirit mangler shishas, or maybe not. It's hard to tell. It all becomes a blur. But I'm going to put another picture up, which is our friend, Arim Sur, the archaeologist. And she is, you know, when you think back to this meeting, you see yourself in her domain. It's, you know, a large kind of room. She's sitting there on top of, it's almost like a little bit of an elevated dais with some pillows and things. But, you know, it's very striking that she's missing a couple of limbs, right? You know, or the ends of her limbs. And she's looking down on you and is talking to you and saying, yes, I can help you with your quests. Maybe we can work together, you and I. What is it again that you need exactly?
Serpent stone. I've heard that serpent stone will be a great blessing.
I'm going to put a track in the chat. That's 01 Moments of Optimism. And it's a fairly short one. You can put on a loop if you want or not. So she hears you say serpent stone, and she looks at you, but she immediately looks over at your, you know, your, what would you call it?
My plates.
Yeah, your plates.
Oh, yeah. So,
okay.
Yeah.
She looks at your plates like, you know, just piled up in a little pyramid. And they have a bit of a light green mossy hue to them. And she says, serpent stone, I have aplenty. These are not easy to find and to forage. And in fact, it's not finding them that's the tricky part. The tricky part is making sure that they don't kill you. But yes, I can help you here. You know, if maybe you help me. And you, and she looks over to the other two. What do you need? What can I help you with?
I do not need particularly anything upon this mortal realm apart from stories and adventure. So if you're offering either of those two things, then I'd be most happy.
Well, I can definitely offer you some of that. And I think you're not sure if she's squinting at you or not. She's trying to figure something out. And she goes, you seek artifacts.
Indeed.
Yes, I can see it in your heart. It's a heart much like mine. And, you know, she looks around her. She says, I am a great collector of artifacts. And she kind of like looks around her room, but you don't really see that much, right? Like, I mean, there's that pile of stones and, you know, there's some food in the corner and some other stuff, but you don't see like, there aren't things up on the walls, right? And she goes, oh, I see. You cannot see them quite like I can. And, you know, she says, beyond the walls, in the river below, are my artifacts, but I am collecting them so they may be destroyed. They are horrible things. Oh, yes. The artifacts here are from demons.
Aha. Indeed. Why would anyone ever consult with demons?
Yes. Horrible stuff. Demons.
You
but yes.
You probably see Kakura like They're a little ratty, like.
And you're not sure if Arimsir, notices that or not, or knows that there's any sarcasm there or anything, right, on your part, right? But she says, where I'll send you, you can find artifacts, but I highly recommend, I encourage you to come back and allow me to ensure that they are safe.
Of course. I would do exactly that. I would not be so foolish as to tempt the wrath of demons.
And she says, of course. And that's the part where you're like, huh, does she, like maybe she does know, maybe she doesn't, you're not sure.
Awesome.
But she gives you guys instructions. She says, follow the Goldfish Canal. There's a fort, red walls. They're too smooth to climb, and there's no entrance. And she laughs. Thankfully, I have this keg here. And she looks over, and there's one other object in the room, which is this large keg. And she says, yeah, this keg of blasting sulfur. That'll get you in. And once you're there, collect some artifacts. But I do recommend you bring them to me. You will regret it if you don't.
Indeed, I'm sure that would seek passage into the most highly guarded palaces and kingdoms in all the land.
And with that, I know, Ari, you're running low on time. We're going to fast forward into when you're already in this place, right? So...
Oh, you muted yourself.
Thanks. I'm going to put up a track, which is Dungeon Realm 2. It's 09 Dungeon Realm 2. So you guys are in a cave, and you've just gone through these red walls of this old fort. You've traversed into this place, and it's a weird architecture. Like, it's obviously alien in some ways. Like, none of the cultures you've been to build in this manner. And again, these buildings are stone. The one thing you've learned over and over from all the people here is that you don't live in stone here. It's a bad idea. Stone is where they lived in the past, and they're cursed, right? So all the stone temples and things you've seen in the jungle as you've passed through some of the towns, everybody has warned you away from them, and nobody lives in them, right? Every time, maybe once you've snuck into one, and they're like birds and all sorts of animals in there, because they know humans don't go in these places, and crocodiles don't as well. They're considered cursed. And so here you've gone deep into these through these passages, and that is when you find a large golden door, and it has a handle that looks like it's just supposed to be pulled. And when you pull that handle, that's when we see what's next, which I will jump up here. You are confronted by a demon idol. I'm going to play track 07, Pharaoh's Tomb. So, actually, I'm going to have you guys each roll a die. Ari, you roll a D8, and we can use our room. I think we still have the room up somewhere, right? Let me see. There we go. And you can choose, yeah. So Ari's the D8. Ellen, you can roll the D10, and Lauren, you roll the D12. And so the first thing you notice is this thing has many faces. And maybe it's not even, yeah, it is, you're noticing a face looking at you, and the face has closed eyes and a very wide kind of insanely grinning mouth. And all of a sudden, the face kind of starts turning as if it's going to look in another direction. And then you're confronted by another face, which, is even more grotesque than the first. And again, it does it. And it does this a couple of times until it returns back to the first face. It's got 8 or so, a whole bunch of mouths all over its body. They're not just the ones that are on its face. You saw 4 of them there, but you see a mouth, over on the side of the shoulder or around the stomach. There's even a face like in the middle, like a grin, a weird grin, not a face, but a mouth, in one of its arms that's hanging out here. And each one of them is slabbering, and you see like saliva coming out of it, right? Just dripping down. And it's got 4 arms, right, that are hanging out from, 2 on the upper torso and 2 on this lower part of the torso. And it just seems to, almost at first, maybe you're not sure if it notices you, but it starts to walk in these kind of halting steps toward you. And 2 of the hands come out and they start to, close in on each other, right? I'm going to have one more roll. Ari, since we all know what's going to happen here, or I do.
Okay.
Go ahead and roll a D10.
D10. All right.
Yeah. So it wanders, maddened, hateful,
10.
plotting. It was a god.
Uh-oh.
So this guy wanders up, and you see the hands do this thing, and you guys see, you hear Ari, or I'll just tell you what happens, Ari. You tell me what you say, but everything just goes dark, and you can't see a thing. But the rest of you are fine. But as far as you know, Ari, like, it's just blackness.
Yeah, maybe they hear me utter the last thing you hear from me. We're not meant to be here. And you hear Babu screeching over and over again in the dark.
And I think you can hear Babu like jump off your shoulder, trying to get away from this thing. And in fact, I don't think either of you can even help it at this point. There's just this overwhelming dread that comes over you that you immediately kind of, take a couple steps back before you're able to gain control of your body, right? But you see Mirik just standing there, right, just in the middle, and kind of blind, and he, he's saying those words like, "We're not meant to be here." And you find, Mirik, you find that you're holding that idol in your hand, right? You pull it out, and you feel that, like, and you pull it up, and it's the only thing you can see. It's blackness everywhere, but you can see this idol in front of you. You can't see your hand holding it, but as you're moving it with your hand, you can see it in front of you. And all this is happening when the demon idol comes up, and with the other, the whole time his 2 hands or its 2 hands are there, and they take their 2 blades that they're holding, and they just stab it straight into Mirik slowly, very slowly, and you see it come out the other side. And I think that's where we're going to take a pause. And you guys are able to get control back. But yeah, cool.
Awesome.
Is everyone cool?
Yeah.
Holy shit, that's amazing.
That was the alligator or the crocodile. Yeah, unfortunately, I got to run, guys. That was awesome, man.
That was amazing.
Yeah, it was really cool. Very interesting how you use the fall of magic stuff. But anyway, yeah, I'm not going to interrupt you guys. You guys have your thing going.
All right, cool. Well, we'll talk again.
Yep.
See you, Ari.
All right,
See
enjoy
ya.
the movie.
Take care, enjoy the movie.
Thanks. See you both later.
All right. So what do you guys think? Take like a 5-minute break or something?
Yes, please.
Sounds good.
All right, let's do it.
See you in 5.
Yeah. I forgot you guys have nice, not hot season over there, Ellen.
Yeah, I didn't rug up sufficiently enough when I first got up, so I just took the time to don my poncho and scarf.
It's going to be about 40 to 45 today over here.
Nice, nice.
Yes.
I think it's
hate
probably
LA summer.
Yeah, that is fucking hot. It's probably not even like what a lot of Americans would consider cold, but it's cold, all right. Oh, here's everyone's favorite Luke Wade. Mike's on.
Bye. I'm out.
That's what the crocodile should sound like.
Oh, totally. Luke, you're now going to do voice acting for our crocodiles.
Okay.
All right. So from that scene, I think we're going to flash back, like way back. Are you guys good for how long? Like the next hour or almost an hour? Like 50 minutes or so?
Yeah, no, I can do an hour.
Okay, cool. So yeah, let's do a little bit more then. I'm going to play the track which says RPG background loops, MP3, blah, blah, blah. It's thunderstorms, right? So just the sound of like some rain with a little bit of lightning in the background. And that's cool, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we're going all the way back to when you guys were first at the port, right? So you were at the port, and then we had that scene where Panya and Mirik go off and look for the teak nymphs, right? And that took a lot longer than expected. So by that point, it's almost like dusk, right? The sun is starting to go down. It's getting a little bit darker. And when the three of you meet each other back at the port, you see, in fact, the same boat guy, Moo, sees you and he looks over, kind of like does a double take, and he says, it is not a good idea to be here at this time. And, he looks up and it's like starting to, like that drizzle that was kind of there is starting to like really start coming down. You see like dark clouds rolling in, right? And it's not really that wet yet. Like it's just starting, right? But you can tell soon it's going to be like a storm, a full-on storm, right? He's like, we need to go now, and he says, this is a bad time to be out. The crocodiles get, and you can see he struggles for the word for a while, and he says, restless. They get restless. And he jumps into his boat. I'm assuming you guys come along, and you can tell, like, even as he's crossing the water, there's this little island in the middle of this big semi-lake, right? And he says, we have to stay at Trader's Island. You're downlanders. You're not allowed, unless you've petitioned a crocodile, which I don't believe you have. And he looks mostly at you, Pilgrim, because, you've talked a big crocodile game, right? And even though he's kind of like laughing and making fun of you guys, he's still looking at you like, have you petitioned a crocodile?
No, we have not the privilege yet, but if you know of any crocodiles looking to sponsor, we're very interested. We just have not had time to source our own petitioners.
Yes, sponsor. And he looks over just at that moment. You're passing another boat going the other way, and he motions with his head, for you to look at the other boat. And he says, see him or see her? And she, and she's paddling her boat, and it's empty, right? She's just coming from Trader's Island. So maybe she's just dropped off passengers. But you notice that the boatsmith there that he's pointing to, she's missing like a leg, right? She just has this kind of like almost like a kind of like peg leg thing, and she goes by, but he says, that's what happens when you petition the crocodiles, if you're lucky. And, he keeps on heading to Trader's Island. Trader's Island. It looks remarkably, and our friend Moo here tells you about it as he's paddling you over there. It looks remarkably like a face. He says there are rumors it was the face of a god that had fallen, and you can see it looks kind of like the top part of a face that's peeking out of the water, right? He says you'll find a place to stay here. This is safe for us. There's no crocodiles here. And he pulls up and lets you free.
Excellent. I super want to drink at the tea shop. I want to drink.
Same!
But I want to drink the tea brewed from this. Like, I like to think it's the tears of the gods that we're residing on.
Nice. I love it. Oh my God, I love that. So, yeah, I think on the way up to the tea house, which is, I'm going to say, Panya likes to, find the place to go, right? So, as soon as you park there, you probably see a couple tea shops, and maybe you even mention something like, "Ooh, a nice warm tea would be nice right now," right? And it's like the rain's really starting to come down. It's not cold because this is still kind of a relatively humid environment, but the sun's gone down, so it's starting to get a little bit cool, right? And he just points at all these shops and is like, "Well, there's plenty of tea shops, but these are just plenty of tea shops." What you do is, after a little bit of detective work, you find out that the best tea shop is right up on the forehead and of the island, and there's a kind of like a large light that's coming from there, and it's like this artificial fire that they build coming out of a huge urn that's built on that area. But there's the tea shop there is called the God's Tears, right? And it has some other translation, right? But like that's what it means. And when you get there, what you find just before you walk in, there is this little almost like a bubbling brook of water, which is coming out of the ground, right? Like it must be like some underground well or something. And right about where the eyes are, on this thing. And right when you get there, you see one of the proprietors coming out with a little, teapot, and use that water and they're actually like protecting the teapot with an umbrella from the rain to make sure that water doesn't get inside, right? And they're only using the water from that little fountain. And you see them walk back inside, and both of you are standing out there as the water's pouring and it's getting dark, but you see like the warm glow from the little windows of this tea shop and a little bit of chatter inside.
Pilgrim. She grabs your shoulder. I need that. Come, let's go have some tea.
I'm going to play One Fantasy Tavern again, just because it's got like a little bit of a warm background din of people. So you walk in, and you're surrounded by people enjoying themselves, right? It's a couple of people like you have come in recently, and they're just taking off some of their wet garb and putting it near one of the fires in the corner. And they even have different fires, right? There's one fire just for putting your clothes near so that they will dry, but it's separate from the other fires because they want people to still come in and enjoy themselves. And they motion you over and take you to a little table for two, and you're sitting there across from each other in this little table, close to a little urn with a flame. And I mean, the warmth of this place is just all encompassing, right? Which is kind of bizarre because, like, if you look at the construction of the building, I mean, it looks like it's not super solid. There's a couple of windows, but still, like, all the warmth is just captured in here.
Why isn't this cozy, Pilgrim?
Yeah, so I'm very at ease in this place. I feel like this is a place that I could call home.
Oh, I think this is the first time I've seen you looking this relaxed. You're often so serious.
Well, it's been a lot of work to get to where we are, and my whole life has led up until this travel.
Can I do a lore check to see if I've heard of like the properties of these gods' tears?
Ooh.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, cool. That's actually cool, because I was about to ask you, why are you so keen to drink of these gods' tears?
So I have two things. First of all, I think just to make sure we understand, like the reason why Mirik is not here, because he's not with you guys, is because I think this is where this is just after the teardrops. Sorry, the teak, the teak nymph drop was eaten, right? And I think he's starting to just notice that where is it? Badru? No, did I get the name right?
Babru.
Babru, where Babru is, just like holding her stomach and like feeling. And this is before she got ill on the journey, but this is right after she ate this thing, and so he was worried about it. He says, "You guys go ahead. I'll get a place for us for the night at whatever inn." So that's where he's at, right? As far as the lore check, yeah. Do you want to? I'm like, do we even need World of Dungeon mechanics? You can just tell me stuff. Like maybe that's the way this game should be.
Yeah. What would be some cool lore about these gods' tears? I think consumed from the source, it's just like the purest, cleanest water you could ever have. But when brewed at like a specific temperature with certain leaves, you can probably get different properties from the leaves you brew it with. So perhaps there's also like other like teas that are grown and dried on these lands to bring out other aspects of this god. Like this is how this god manifests and is acknowledged in this community. And
I mean, so as you're saying that, like in some of the background, what you guys are noticing is I start roboting. Am I roboting?
Just a little bit.
You know what? Let me check one thing upstairs real quick. Sometimes if they use the microwave up there, fuck with my check. I'll be right back.
Yes, I love the brow leaves.
Yeah, I thought that would be nice because they grow near the eyes.
That is so good. It's probably also nostril tea, like sort of if you can.
Oh yeah, and maybe like goatee tea.
Goatee tea.
Yeah. I wonder what. So like I can imagine like this. The brow tea must be like wisdom.
Yes.
And then maybe soul from the soul patch.
From the soul patch. And then nostrils are like for good health,
Yeah. Hey Toma, we just decided like where you gather the leaves from for different properties. So like eyebrow teas for like intelligence. Goatee teas like for soul, for the health of your soul, and nostril hair is for physical health.
Nice, I love it. And so I think that's what we see is like when you come in at first, you're like, oh, there's a lot of people in here, a lot of clients. But what you find is like only about a quarter of this whole area is for the clients. Like 3/4 of this, this tea house is actually employees, or like all of them doing work. right? Like one is sitting there heating the water and only heating the water. Like that's all they're paying attention to, right? And then there's like, other people who are preparing these herbs, which apparently must be prepared on demand, right? And there's just like cabinets and cabinets, just like when you go to like those Chinese tea shops and there's like the hundreds of, little cabinets. There's just like tons of these little cabinet things. And that's a pretty expensive proposition here. Like you don't usually find that much furniture of that type in this area that you've seen. But there's just like a dozen people all working on preparing some aspect of the tea, right? There's even one or two dedicated people just for preparing the actual tea drinking containers, like to make sure they are the correct temperature, right? So they're like pouring water in and waiting and then pouring it out just so that the teacup is at the perfect temperature. And all this comes out. But yeah, go on. What is it that you've maybe, we see all this happening to like the side tables, like they've just served your neighbor, right? And I think, the tea proprietor, she comes up to you and you can tell she's the one who's kind of been coordinating very calmly. It's not like there's a ruckus. This is definitely like everybody's very calm and just doing their job, right? Like clockwork. And she walks up to you and she says, what can I do for you today? And she looks at the both of you.
I would love a cup of your tea that would imbue wisdom upon us, for we are journeying on quite the dangerous adventure.
Oh, indeed, a dangerous adventure. Oh, maybe I shouldn't even ask. And you can tell she's starting to like give off a friendly attitude. At first, you're like, oh, she seemed very like cut and dry, but maybe not so much.
Yes, but what tea would you recommend for one who is seeking wisdom and guidance?
Is this a dangerous adventure? Is it an adventure of love? Or is it an adventure of that requires bravery?
I do think all of the above. Well, love for some of us, not me personally. However, my dear friend here, Pilgrim, is, I suppose, what would you call it? A pilgrimage of love, devotion?
Love is insufficient a word for my feelings towards the great crocodilier. I wish to become kindred with those magnificent reptiles.
And for the most part, up until this point, you've been in the port, right? And you could see the deference that everybody had to crocodiles, right? And the words they say. And in fact, if you said the crocodilier and you mentioned crocodiles in any fashion, people are always like doing some symbols or bowing their head in deference or saying a thing about it. But she doesn't. Right, which is odd. Like now that you're here on this little island and there are no crocodiles here, she doesn't really respond to that in the way that you would have expected so far, right? But she says, "Okay, I think I know what to serve you, if you trust me, that is." And she looks to the two of you, and she sees that you look like you would trust her, and she goes and prepares some tea. And later she comes back with it. It takes like 15 minutes or so, but they come out and they feed you some little snacks and little, and when they put the snacks down at first, there might even be some hesitation on your part, like you didn't even order anything, right? They didn't ask you about food or anything like that. But they kind of reassure you, no, this is part of the pre-tea ceremony, and specifically these snacks are chosen to match the teas that you have ordered, right? Your snack, Panya, is one for, and she's going to bring out two separate teas, by the way. So yours is for one of wisdom and love and bravery, right? And in fact, when you said all of the above, you know, you could hear her actually whispering in your direction. She said, "Ah, wise choice." Um, what's the snack that you feel like embodies that comes out and is served to you specifically?
All I can think of is I to call back to like what we saw with poor Merrick is I think it's probably a shortbread baked with squid ink, so it's like black as night kind of thing, and it's probably got like sort of smoky sesame seeds or something peppered throughout it as well,
I love it.
and perhaps like a little bit of tea as well for some bitter tannins.
Nice. And then there's another snack that they bring out for Pilgrim, and this one is your tea is for one of you know, the way she says it after you've mentioned what kind of tea you want, she says, "Ah, you would like a tea of searching for devotion." And I don't know if that's exactly what you ordered, but that's the way she interpreted your order. What snack does she bring for you?
She brings me a plate of the fresh young leaves of the reeds that grow on the bank, and they've been steamed lightly. And Pilgrim is a little bit offended because he's already found his devotion. Like, he's not searching for it, but he's hoping that maybe something was lost in translation and that it's something that maybe devotion will be repaid.
Nice. I think Pilgrim, even like you take a bite of this leaf, and it's, you know, they don't really tell you how to eat this thing, right? So you know, it's these young thick leaves, and you know, you're in your head, you're thinking exactly that, like, you know, this doesn't feel right. And you see her walk by right after you take that first bite, and she says, "Oh, you must dip it first in the sauce." And there is a little dish in the middle of your plate which has some kind of, like, you know, like a yellow orange liquid, right? And once you dip it in there and take a bite, it completely transforms the flavor. And in fact, you feel kind of awash uh, in the essence of crocodile. There's something about, and you don't know what it is. It's like, maybe it's when you put it in your mouth and the way the aroma almost like smells like crocodile, just like, you know, when you eat like sushi and you have sushi paper, you're eating that, and even if there's not fish, you're like, ooh, it kind of reminds me of sea or fishy something, right? It's kind of like that, right? And yeah, so it kind of takes your concern a little bit away, you know, like maybe she was, you know, kind of listening to what you had said. I don't know. But the teas are served, and yeah, the teas are the best you've ever tasted. And Panya, you're kind of awash with these feelings like you are on the right path, right? But it's a path, like you're not there, and you're still searching for those things. But there's no doubt in your mind that this is the direction that you need to travel, right? And you know, you don't know how much of that, like, it's just odds, like you're just in that state, but like if you look down at the tea, it's like, well, did the tea do that? That doesn't make sense. How could the tea have done that? Like, it's not like the flavor of the tea is doing that to you. You just suddenly feel like very warm and like confident that you are journeying correctly. Pilgrim, on the other hand, when you drink your tea, you don't quite feel you don't feel that, but you do feel like you feel like you're in the right place as far as a journey. You don't feel confidence that the journey is going to lead you where you expect it to. So that's the one difference that you feel.
Can I add a detail?
Absolutely.
So I think like Panya downs this tea, and then she's like looking at the tea leaves at the bottom, but it's like no matter how much she tilts her cup, the leaves are blacking out like the white bottom of this cup, kind of thing, as if they're shrouded in darkness.
Love it. That's such a great question. Now I need to know on the other side, what does Pilgrim see at the bottom of the teacup? What do the tea leaves look like? Or even are there any? I don't know.
There's
Podge.
as Rosie.
Podge.
Rosie. Sorry. So
That just felt like one of the customers in the tea shop, like walking by.
yeah.
Podge.
Podge, order for Podge. Yeah, Pilgrim's is finishing his tea, and it feels like there's still like a couple of mouthfuls left, and when he goes to drink, there's nothing in there. So he looks in the cup, and there's the tea leaves there, and there's a glow to them, like whether or not there's literally a glow, but it's almost like a halo around each individual tiny tea leaf, and he feels blessed.
Love it. Awesome. So I'm going to play a track. Let's see here. Not that one. Hold on just a second.
Also, so while
Yeah.
Tom is looking for that, for the listeners at home, for the viewers at home, this whole scene has had some rainy, stormy weather background music playing for us, and the timing of some of those thunder rolls have just been perfect. Like when you were talking about whether or not the lady trusts us or we trust her, it's like so ominous.
I love it. I find that all the time whenever, like if you have audio that doesn't get too much in the way, like it kind of definitely does a lot of that coincidental stuff. And I'm just a huge fan of it. Okay, let's just do this. I'm going to play a track called Mystic Forest. So we're going to do a couple things. First, we're going to talk to this individual, which is Mahanat San Orm, which is the Merchant Lord. He is the Merchant Lord of Trader's Island. And before you leave the next day, I think what happens is in the tea house, he actually walks by. And he stops at your table and looks down, I think right at the end of that scene, right? I think maybe Panya, you're looking at the tea leaves, and maybe he's looking over your shoulder and he goes, huh, good choice. And, he says, come, see me tomorrow. You will find me at the top of the nose. And, he says his name and wanders off. right? And maybe you guys ask about him or something in the tea house, but somebody mentions, oh, that's Mahanat Sanorm. He's the merchant lord. Oh, he's asked you to come see him. Oh, you should not refuse such a call. It is an honor. All that kind of stuff, right? Excuse me. And he lives in a bungalow, which is on top of the nose, like well positioned. I mean, he is the only one up there, which is like the peak, of this place. So obviously an individual of wealth. But what he does, and I'm going to cut to the chase here. One of the things you've noticed since you've been on this little island is, people actually not happy about their position here. There are people complaining. There are workers who are arguing with a taskmaster. The taskmaster doesn't have like, a means of controlling them. Like he says, well, you won't get paid. And they say, well, we need to get paid more. And, you'll hear these arguments. Like it's obviously like they're not servants, right? There isn't servitude here. There are workers that are unhappy about their position, right? And when you meet Mahanat, he welcomes you, and I can see like maybe Mirik is kind of in the background there, right? Along with Babru, right? Maybe he's taking care of her. But Mahanat says, I know you're planning to go upriver, are you not? You look like stout adventurers.
You do flatter us. But yes, indeed, we are seeking to head further up the river.
And he kind of like, he looks at you after that and he goes, well, I do flatter you a little bit, but you look competent enough. And I think you are like me. They will have us. And when he says they, he means the crocodiles. He kind of uses that term again and again. He'll say they in a certain way to imply the crocodiles, right? And he'll say, they will have us do their work for them and to collect, artifacts and other objects. And, we just need to make our way in life just like them. If they keep everything, that would not work out. They say it's for our safety, but I believe no such thing. I believe they're just greedy. But that will not leave this room, of course.
That will not leave this room, but I will. I will not hear of this. I am on this mission to serve our holy crocodilier, and you sit here upon this demigod and proclaim that those true holy spirits that walk among us are greedy? You, sir, you are the greedy one.
Aha, you have passed my test. I was just seeing if you were, if you were dedicated enough for this journey, because it will ask a lot of you. And, like he kind of motions away a couple of guards that are behind a couple curtains. You can see one or two of them have kind of like moved out and they're holding some type of weapons, and he motions them away and he says, yes, I think you are dedicated in a way which I could definitely use. We are here to serve them, of course, but to serve them best, we need to protect this land, and we are here at the gateway. We are just beyond the gates. And if it's not us to be able to talk to those from foreign lands and trade with them, then they will come in here and they will take our stuff. So of course, when they say, bring us all these artifacts so we may clean them or when we may hold them for you, we have to interpret that, and give them most of the artifacts. Of course, any dangerous ones, I would not want to bring cursed items out into this world. That would be horrible. but occasionally we need to take some of these treasures and use them to supplicate the downlanders and to trade for goods to give us a strong position. Otherwise, Kundis could come in and invade. There was talk of such a thing.
There might be talk of such a thing, but when your shores are so protected, no one would dare, and if they dare, then that will be the last thing that they ever tried to do. I am appalled that you would withhold treasures from those that deserve everything that we find.
You say this now, and your worship of the scaled ones is exemplary. However, do not forget, not long before, the Bears of Candace almost overran this nation. There was quite a bit of fighting, and we even lost the port town for a few days. I do not doubt that the scaled ones can hold them off, to the best of their ability, but who would risk such a thing? That is bad news. And he's mentioning all this Candace, and he says the bears, right? And that's the first that you've noticed that you remember seeing, one bear creature, humanoid, walking around, wearing a little bit of garb. But you like now it's just coming to your memory. Like, I guess there are some bear people around here from some neighboring nation. He says, look, I, of course, want to appease the scaled ones like anyone would, but one or two artifacts, do not underestimate the ability of those things to protect the scaled ones almost from themselves, from their own thoughts of invulnerability.
It is not appeasing, it is paying dues. You do not trust that the crocodiliae can protect us. You are just a feeble-minded human, and until you learn to accept that, you walk a perilous line.
You speak wise words, Pilgrim. And he's not even using your name because nobody's told him your name yet, And he says, but look, I will just say this. If you keep any artifacts, that's up to you. But I am here and I am willing to do trade, if that's what it comes down to. I am very generous, but I understand your faith. And that is, I will not speak against it. Your faith is one that is worthy. And he kind of stops there.
I will not be doing business with you, sir. And on that note, Pilgrim storms out. So, just Panya and the merchant.
And Mirik, I think, just follows you out. I think he was like half paying attention. He's really concerned about Babru, and he sees you like walk past him. So he's like, it kind of wakes him up, and he like follows you, figuring he'll just get the information from you. But Panya, what do you do?
I think Panya waits until Pilgrim is gone and then looks to Mahat Sanom and says, perhaps you can help me. I found it so curious that when we were sent upon this quest to find artifacts, the crocodile who sent us on this quest said she was going to destroy the artifacts, but they possess demons. Is this also your belief? Is this a universally acknowledged truth?
So, and this is the conversation you guys are having, right? You suddenly realize he actually has some kind of demon with him, right? You realize it now because he's just cast a spell on you, and you didn't notice it, and the spell is just like fading away. These words that you've said don't even make sense to you yet because you haven't seen the crocodile yet. It's in the future, right? Because this is happening, the week before you guys go upriver, right?
Oh,
So you've just kind of like revisited this event, which is going to happen a week hence. And he says, I see. Yes, you will be hired. Yeah, you have to be careful of that one. That one will keep it all for himself. He is very greedy. She is very greedy. But I have something for you. She's going to send you, and you probably mentioned a little bit of like maybe even the red keep or the red fort or something, right? And Mahanat says, she's going to send you to the red fort. I see. That is a dangerous proposition. You will probably run into a demon idol there. They are nigh invincible for ones like yourself.
Oh, then how best one conquer an invincible foe?
Well, she would know best. She's lost many limbs to the demon idols, but she will probably not share such information with you. But, and he turns and, he's got like a chest in the back of the room, a couple of chests, and there's one red kind of, maybe it's teak, something, red wooden one, and it's got like these brass fastenings, and he opens it and he shuffles through, and there's definitely like a lot of scrolls and papers in there, and he pulls one up and closes it, and he takes a quick look at it and then kind of closes it and hands it over to you, and he says, here, this may help you, but I don't do this out of pure generosity. I also need something back, and I'm sure you and I will speak again. I'm sure of it. And he kind of like, you can see he tucks something into his, into his robes, and that's whatever one of his demons, right?
Excellent. I really want to pull out Famnig Kjarta. Because Famnig Kjarta knows the truth, but I feel like he's lying the truth. I don't feel like he's lying to me.
Let's say you do that. I think you do exactly that. And you see that he's telling you nothing but the truth. The only time, you can see that he does not like the crocodiles at all. And definitely, any of those flowery words he used afterwards to Pilgrim was just to convince him that, he shouldn't be reported on, right? Like he would have a story to go back on.
And I think the way Panya knows people are lying to her is like the more cobweb threads that sort of like form on their person when they're speaking indicates like how much they're lying, sort of like being caught up in their own web of lies kind of thing. Because Famnig Kjarta is a spider demon.
Love it. And to that extent, you can see there's old spider webs everywhere here, right? Like you get this sense that like, he's definitely spun many a tale, but this is not one of them, right? Him using the power against you, him reading the future, and him showing you the scroll, these are all truths, right? The demon idols, truths.
That is so good. I think Panya tucks like the scroll into one of her many like folds in her robe and says, "Indeed, I feel like our paths will cross again very soon."
Awesome. All right. Quick question. Time check. How much time do we have? It's getting near the top of the hour here.
Yeah, about 20 minutes.
Okay. So we are going to fast forward maybe to our to the scene we left and see what happens next. Let me see here. Ooh, there's so many good tracks. Let me see one that works right. Hold on a second. Okay. All right. The track I'm going to play, there's a couple of tracks that say RPG Distress on LL928, whatever. One of them says 20. It's track 20. So I'm going to play that one. And we're back in that cave, right? There is a glowing red, glow coming from the demon idol, especially now as it's sunk both of those blades into Mirik, right? And Mirik, you can see him, you don't hear a thing. He's not screaming out loud. His mouth is open, and you can see the blades coming out of the back of his, of his back. And you kind of almost see like his body is glowing, but then is just fading into black and just turns to dust and collapses in a pile in front of this demon idol. And the demon idol is now giving off this red glow that wasn't there before. And the heads just keep turning, and you see the saliva coming out of its mouths. But yeah, the spell is broken. So, both of you are there on either side, and we see Babru is like screaming, right? Like this little monkey in the corner, just like, just like you would, if you were just unconsolable, like when a predator is around, right? And you're warning your pack, right? And so screaming and screaming. Yeah, I don't know. What do we do?
Pilgrim.
Pilgrim doesn't hesitate and pulls out the blessed tooth of the great. What did I say? Its name was the blessed Paniza, and two-handed strike this demon.
And I think that blade just goes, we see like, the two blades there, and it starts to kind of, again, it's walking really, I don't know what the word is, kind of like jankily, right? Like it's
Zombie walk?
Yeah, kind of like a zombie walk. It definitely is stuttering almost across the room, right? But it doesn't seem fast, right? Like those blades were not quick when they stabbed Mirik, and they're not quick when you go up there, and you're able to slice right through. And as soon as you hit one of the arms, you feel like this red explosion of light occur. But your blade is a blessed blade, right? And specifically of the crocodiles. And you feel it kind of like slowly, almost like you're sawing it through, even though you're not doing that motion, right? But you're like, you feel it slowly sawing through the arm, and one of the arms just collapses. And you hear all those mouths scream and squeal, right? But yeah, there's this horrible noise. But the thing is not stopped moving. Instead, it actually like takes one or two kind of weird steps back, and the arms start flailing. One of the arms that you've taken off is one with a blade, and that blade falls down, and kind of you can hear it clank to the stone floor. And that arm is no longer glowing red, but the rest of the creature still is. And you see its arms just kind of like wiggling, uncontrollably. What is Panya doing?
I think Panya wants to use some binding magic using Famnig Kyarta to bind this demon idol with some silken spider threads as strong as a diamond kind of thing.
Oh, nice. All right. So I'm trying to think if we should do any kind of mechanic here.
I can totally roll for this, see how well it goes if you want.
Yeah, let's do that.
Cool. I'm guessing this is with...
Let's do like the 2d6, and then you tell me what your stat is that's involved.
It's intelligence for spellcasting, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Nice. Oh, and I'm totally like downing a quicksilver as well.
Oh, that's even better. Yes, then for sure.
And I need this magic now. Awesome. 2d6. Awesome. Red dice. Oh no!
Yes.
I got it. That would be like a 5.
All right. So I think what happens is we, what does it look like when? So the first part works, right? Like you're casting the spell to get how do you pronounce it? Femin Karta?
Yeah, Femnig Hjarta.
Femnig Karta. Femnig Karta to come out and bind this thing. So that part works. What does that look like?
Yeah, so I think like Panya downs like this like quicksilver, and you see her like incanting like a chant to like get out. And she probably does it. It's like she has cantrips as well, and her cantrips are like candles and shadows. So she probably like has some kind of like, I think she probably has like some flame in her hand that she's like summoning with like mad shadows that are getting cast around the place as like the spider on her. You're not quite sure if it's like the shadow that's growing or the spider that's growing at first, for like these really like gross like spindly spider shadows that like getting cast around this cavernous space. And then I think like Famnig Hjarta like sort of like steps out from the shadows. Like it's one of those like ones with the big bulbous ends and then like the real nasty like long legs kind of thing. And so it shoots out this silken spider thread at the demon idol. Oh, that's what she wants it to do anyway.
Yeah. So I think we see kind of this, like even though we're not seeing the physical spider, right? Like we're seeing the shadows played all over, but we're seeing this. You can see the threads start to work, right? Like the arms are all out and then suddenly they're a little bit closer and you see the thread around the shoulders. And then again, lower down in the body. And so we're seeing these shining threads, and they're also like preventing the red glow from coming. Like the red glow is around them, right? So you can very distinctly make out where those threads are. I think we see the demon idol, and at first it looks like you've managed to capture it, right? And then we see like kind of like a close-up of its blade, and it just kind of flicks its blade and it cuts one of the ropes, and then it cuts through all the other ones, and it sticks its blade straight into its own body, right? And just flicks it down, and it goes through all those threads and they all just disappear, right? And there's a bit of like an orange light that comes out from that scar that it's made, but it very quickly kind of like heals itself, right? But that does give you guys a moment. You see it slows down as it's doing that. So I have a question, which is, what does the scroll say as far as defeating this thing? What do you guys think?
Ooh, I'm so curious to get like Pilgrim's thoughts on this, because I feel like this is a very crocodilian thing.
Uh-oh, did Ellen accidentally hit the wrong button? Maybe she hit the camera instead of mute.
Yes, I hit the camera instead of mute. Thanks, everyone. Yeah, so it's part of the mythos that these people that originally lived, well, not originally, but they lived here for a long time. They were driven out by the crocodiles, and they would bite off their heads and like spit their heads out because they weren't even worthy for consuming. So I think maybe the scroll might say something about the demonic invaders of the blessed upriver shall flee the shores when their heads have been snapped off.
Perhaps we need to also purify the body in like the god's tears or something as well.
Yeah. Maybe you happen to carry around a flask of that tea that you found. So
that's perfect, because when we rolled, so Ari was the one who rolled that last D10, right? And that last D10 defines this demon idol, like what it is and what it was a god of, right? And when he rolled that, it said, we rolled a 10, and it says it causes selective blindness, and it's effectively kind of invisible to whoever it affects. But it also says it was a god of wisdom. So it's kind of like perfect. So so these gods are corrupted. They're almost like the opposite of what they were, right? So I love the idea of throwing the tea into this scene, and cutting off its head. We have one weapon that seems to be able to do that kind of thing. But I also kind of like the idea that we will roll something at the end there and just kind of see what outcome that has to our participants here. So why don't we see what that scene looks like? Something about the tea, and maybe Panya, you're doing that part, and then maybe, and do we want to roll before or after? Oof, I don't know.
I think we should roll after, because it's much more fun to like go, yeah, then we do all this thing and we fail.
All right, so let's see maybe the tea first. How does that distract the thing, or otherwise create the opening that Pilgrim needs to be able to attack it?
Yeah, so I think Panya was going to try and bind this thing so it would be immobile while they did this ritual on it to cleanse the demon out of it, or to cleanse this demon idol. And when it just cuts through Famdekiata's threads, like you see Panya look quite surprised, because Famdekiata is like the strongest demon that she knows, apart from Kakura. Kakura, don't listen to this. And she says something to the effect of like, oh, well, I gotta do this the hard way, kind of thing, and rolls her shoulders back, and then pulls out a second vial, not quicksilver, but of tea that she's procured and kept from the tea house. And I think it probably looks a little bit anticlimactic, for I think she sort of douses, she sort of like gets some on her fingers and then flicks it at this demon idol as she says like a ritual phrase that's on the scroll in front of her. Nothing quite like slashing it with a tooth, but there you go. That's my cross to bear.
Well, I think the reaction is what we see, though, right? Like the leaves come out, and you're like, anybody watching this would be like tea leaves in the face of a demon. But whenever these leaves, where they touch the demon, you like all that screaming that it did before when it got its arm chopped off is nothing. That doesn't even hold a candle to the pain it seems to be in, right? So like these leaves hit it, and we see like orange light, kind of like almost as if the leaf corrodes its skin, and it's now bleeding this orange light coming out, and all the mouths are screaming, and the body itself is probably like kind of convulsing, although it's standing on its legs still. So what does the rest of the ceremony look like?
Pilgrim is watching Panya do that, and he nods and looks really smug. And he's like, the eyes above the surface of the murky waters no longer will look upon you. And charges in and slashes at this creature to decapitate it.
Nice.
Roll.
Yes. I'm going to say let's both of you roll. And so, and I think you guys are each doing things that are kind of in your element. So let's just assume that you have like a +2 to each of those rolls or whatever. And then the outcome is not necessarily going to inform whether you kill the thing. I think you're following this procedure and it sounds like it'll work. It's almost like what the side effects are for your characters, as far as like how they are injured or otherwise maimed in the process, right? Or whether they make it out alive or not, whatever. And we'll determine that outcome.
Well, Pilgrim is happy to go out in a blaze of glory because Pilgrim only got a +2, only got a 6.
Oh, nice. That's perfect. There was that kind of works out. Before I was going to have a premonition, which was from Mahanat or something, where he looks at the the 3 of you adventurers and says, only 2 of you will make it out alive, right? But there's also or 2 of you will lose your lives, right? And we've already seen Merrick go down, so I think this is kind of perfect. But how does this look like? I mean, how does Pilgrim die? Is it right now, or is it something else that happens later? Like, how do we see this ending?
I think as Pilgrim has gone in to deliver the final blow, the demon outstretches a hand and clamps it on Pilgrim's shoulder, and the head is cut off. The body falls away, and Pilgrim is left with a death mark. And let's say that he never leaves the riverside. So he gets out, but he's incredibly ill.
Nice. I love that. All right. And then with Panya rolled a 9, or Lauren rolled a 9. So how does this interaction, like, it all works? And part of what you will be able to get from here is some series of artifacts, because this was an like an uninterrupted tomb, right? Like, nobody's been down here. So there will be artifacts there, but this demon is here. Like, how does this whole thing scar her? What is it that, what negative side effect does she come away with? It doesn't have to be like a permanent scar. It could be a curse too. I don't know.
Yeah, it's probably going to be some kind of curse that suits Panya
Let me
very
put it
well.
this way. Most of the objects in here are cursed. So part of the reason that that our archaeologist friend is putting them underwater is to corrode them and have the river clean them of their curses. So, you taking an object away, there's a high likelihood it's going to have some kind of like long-term negative effects on you.
Yeah, she'll totally do that.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a curse that's not really stupidly Terry Pratchett-esque. Like, that's it's like, it's either going the way of like gravity affects Panya differently, in the sense that every now and then it's either too much or too little, and it causes her to trip over, and like certain tasks are quite difficult. She's often stumbling, quite clumsy wizard kind of thing,
Nice.
or or very much like, yes, you have dark visions, dark voices in your head kind of thing.
I like that. I'm going to play a track, which is Ibbur, Ibbur. I think we listened to it in the very beginning as well. So I'm going to throw that in the background. So I think what happens is we end this scene with Myrick dead. We have Babru, who you guys are able to take with you. And in fact, I think Babru's going to get close to you, Panya. And, over the next 3 months, like her stomach starts to swell and she will give birth to a teak nymph, whatever that looks like. We get down to the riverside and we have Pilgrim there with his mark, his mark of death. How is it that Pilgrim ends up, like, what's the last thing we see of him?
Pilgrim's by the river trying to wash off the mark, and he knows what it means. And he looks at Panya and little Babru, and he's like, I am so blessed. Everything that we have achieved will shine a light on the blessed ones, and I will be received. I will be received by them. And not going to get into details or whatever, but he takes a couple of steps back and swarms of crocodiles like come out, and like you see them engulf him. You don't see any of the gore or anything.
Yeah.
He's just taken away by the ones that he is so devoted to.
Are these small, kind of like almost baby crocodiles?
Yeah, sure, why not?
So I think then from here, there is a legend, right, that grows of Pilgrim who came from another land, but with the heart of a crocodile, and, was able to single-handedly, slay this demon idol, right, as the way the story goes. And, all those crocodiles that partook of Pilgrim, they're the ones who spread this rumor. And, there's almost like a reverse worship, right? Where they end up kind of like worshiping this Pilgrim. And there's like almost like a sect which starts to build up within the kingdom, a small sect, but a sect which builds up, which is, there's almost like an equilateral worship of humans as much as crocodiles. It's not about whether there's a crocodile or a human, but whether their heart is one of the crocodile. And yeah.
You totally get a shot too of like Panya telling the I was there story, like in that tea hut back at like the god's space.
Totally. Do you want anything else for Panya there at the end?
No, I think it's perfect. Yeah, I think it's like sort of dim, like evening candlelight while she's like telling the story of like being in that cave. It was just like this dark and dreary and, shadows everywhere kind of thing.
And I think there's someone overhearing the story, not even looking back at you, and maybe they're behind you so you don't see them, but they're like, you see them kind of like cocking their ear and like listening, and then turning to their friend and they're like, the stories people tell. And we see it's a pretty strong, muscular gentleman, maroon skin, white tattoos, and he's just sitting there enjoying some tea with whoever his compatriot is. And then that's where we'll go ahead and end it. So,
yay!
Can I just add a little bit of flavor as well?
Absolutely.
So the sword that Pilgrim was holding as he was taken, we see a scene of the sword settling to the bottom of the river, and it kind of, once it touches the river floor, it kind of locks into place, and a glow like starts spreading out from it, and the like stone ruins that you see on the riverbed, they start to slowly crumble.
Love it. Nice. So that
What a
was
cool cameo.
yeah. That was Merkurgur, the Death Rolled Kingdom.
Amazing.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks you guys. That was a lot of fun. I wasn't like, just coming into it, I wasn't sure like what would happen, and like
Yes. Oh man,
yeah.
that's the first game where you've been GM for me, and love it, love it, love it. It's like you scripted like it, because some of it was just written really beautifully and just works so well. I love you all, but I'm really going to have to run. Thank you so much, and I'll chat in the internet with you.
Yeah.
all right. I'm gonna stop the recording right now, but I'll still be here for a second if you want to chat, Lauren.